Okay, here we go. We're gonna try this. We're here at Fourth World Comics in Smithtown, New York, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that seemed enthusiastic about me trying this out. Everybody, come here. You got to get in this. So these are the guys that work at Fourth World, second generation store. Here's Terrence. He's the owner. He's really tall. I know. I'm small. It's Chris. Chris is the guy who gave me when I first got a chance to pitch. Came in. Here's Tom. And here's Zach.
Yeah, Bill.
Exactly.
The good-looking one.
Right? Always. So, thank you again for giving me a chance to do this. I might totally screw it up, but I will give it my best shot. So, I thought one of the fun things to do would be to talk about openings. I love first issues. I love openings. I love finding some comic that I pick up and I know immediately has something to say, has a voice. So I know I could do like 5 things on openings, but I'm going to focus on one technique today that I really love. So I had a teacher, one of my very first writing teachers, told us, I remember on the first day of class, that in a short story, the entire story should be encapsulated in the first sentence. And in a comic, it should be the first page. And I kind of think that's bullshit, but what I do feel, by the end of the first issue of your comic, you want all your priorities to be clear. And by priorities, I just mean your voice, like what it is you're going to explore, how you're going to explore it, what your comic is, thoroughly in that way. And there's nothing more exciting, again, than picking up a first issue like that and knowing this person knows what they're after with this thing. It has a real mission, it has a purpose, it has a passion. And the way, I think it's really hard to achieve. That's why it's so exciting when you find one, because it's rare. It's hard. But the ones that are the most effective for me, and I can't think of a couple, by the way, that do follow that crazy rule of first page, the entire comic is there, like Dark Knight Returns. But mostly, again, it's by the end of the first issue. So for me, what's happening in a comic that's really working is that all these different tools, all these mechanisms are working on this craft level, where 100 different decisions are being made almost every few pages. Do I use narration? Do I introduce my characters through dialogue? Do I do it through action? How long is the sequence before I start to reveal the bigger mythology? What's my hook? What's my emotional conflict versus plot conflict? Everything. It's like a handyman looking at the wall and seeing all the different tools at his or her disposal and being like, oh, I'm going to use this. So one of the tools that I love that really helps is called a cold open. So when you look up cold open, I looked it up and I'm like, I actually don't really agree with the definition I keep finding, which is that it's a narrative sequence that jumps you right into the action of a story. That's not really the way I see it. I see a cold open as an opening sequence that essentially does something different than the bulk of the issue, that helps to establish the scope, the breadth of what your project is going for with this comic. So if the main bulk of the issue, for example, is going to be action, but the story is really an emotional and deep story that has to do with the relationship between two characters, you can cold open with that relationship. As kids, whatever, we do that in Noctera a lot because it's kind of a high octane series, not to plug my own shit, but I know, right? But the bulk of the issue will be action. So it shows the breadth and the range and the scope and the elasticity of kind of what you're going for. So 2 comics that I'm reading right now, and I'm going to talk about comics like just for a second that I love, that I came here to pick up also in a minute. But 2 comics that I've been reading lately that I really love are Excellence, so good. Brandon Thomas, Khary, Randolph, and on colors, Emilio López. Great book. And where is it? By my buddy, by my little brother, James Tynion, and Alvaro, Martinez Bueno, and Jordie, the great Jordie Bellaire. Nice House on the Lake, from Black Label. Both of them use this technique, a cold open, in a different way, for totally different purposes and really, really effectively. So with Nice House on the Lake, for example, the book, without giving anything away, is this like cumulative dread horror story. These people, they're invited to a house in the middle of nowhere, and you get to know them over the course of the first issue really, really intimately. But because it gets so crazy in not to give anything away, but because it's like end of the world post-apocalyptic, James makes this great decision. And by the way, I just have to say, like, James was my student back when he was in college and I was like a kid. And there's nothing better than seeing people that you taught at one point, now teach you how to be a better writer. This guy's just so great. He's such a titan. I love him. So he starts with this incredible cold open where Ryan, one of the main characters, is talking directly to the camera. And that's a whole other set of things. Like, we can talk about narration another time, and all those decisions about what the difference is between first-person narration, second-person narration, third-person narration, no narration, what the effects of all those things are, and why those decisions are being made here to do something really unsettling where she's breaking the fourth wall and talking right to you. But what she's saying is essentially, what is communicating on this page is how crazy it's going to get, right? Everything's on fire. Clearly people are dead. She's injured. Everything's burning. It looks almost like this total hellscape. And then it cuts back to Brooklyn. It cuts back to a bar where this very simple conversation's happening between her and Walter, another character, about how they think the world's going to end. So the point of the cold open here is to say to a reader, this is how crazy this book is going to get. It buys you capital now with the reader to go back and say, now stay with me for this slow build. Stay with me for this, this character portrait, these character portraits, and this really rich needlepoint character work as we go. So it's saying to you, this book is going to get this big. Hold on, let's go this way for a minute. So again, cold open, it gives you the stakes of the book, gives you the reach of the book. It's telling people honestly, and that's always the goal, is to communicate honestly with your reader. This is what I'm going for, take it or leave it. This is what I'm about with this book, and hang in there. So Excellence, I was just looking it over the other day. I love this book. I hope you'll pick it up. First volume is called Killed the Past. And it's about a secret society of magicians in the Black community where they're committed to this group called the Aegis, and they're allowed to do only good deeds, but not for themselves. And so it really focuses on this relationship between Raymond and Spencer. Spencer is Raymond's son, and it's about him coming up in this like great legacy of magic, but also with all of the kind of the trauma and the darkness and the conflict and the freight of the past weighing on Spencer. And so what Brandon does here, which I think is just fantastic, is he does a cold open that's all about Spencer's birth, his growing up. It goes through ages in this really cool way where it's like now it'll be like age 2, age 3, age 4. And it goes through, it takes 8 pages, right? 8 pages of showing you his struggle growing up with this father who expects so much of him before it cuts to the present. And then it goes from there and shows one of the first assignments he has about doing something to help people in the world. So again, a cold open, what it's establishing is what your series, what your series is about in terms of how wide it's going to go, how big it's going to go, what its priorities are, given the fact that the bulk of the issue is not going to necessarily address those things in the same way, or for a while. So here it's saying this is the priority, and giving it 8 pages, which is a long opening sequence, is saying this book is deeply about the past, about this big historical web that these characters are a part of, and how it informs the present, how it challenges Spencer, how he's going to come into conflict with it and change everything about it. So that's the point of that cold open. So again, in Nocterra, I have to plug it. It's out today, number 4. We tend to do this because I want you to know with that series that it's always really focused on the relationship between the brother and the sister, between Val and M, and how one really is about surviving and one is about reaching for something more out of those two characters. And how that's kind of informs everything that's happening in this crazy monsters versus serial killers versus truckers stuff. So cold opens, again, only one technique. You don't have to use it, but it's a really, really effective tool to use when you're starting a series and you're not going to get to certain things that are really part of the big priority system of the series until issue 2, until issue 3, until issue 4. And you want to say to people, this is going to this place, or this series is about this, even though I might not be hugely clear in that first issue. So other books that I've been picking up here that I just want to recommend, and forgive me if this is such a thing, this mess that I'm just trying this out. Philadelphia, Rodney Barnes, Jason Sean Alexander, is amazing book about vampires and history in Philadelphia. It's great. The Good Asian by Pornsak, good friend of mine, amazing editor, fantastic, urgent, great, really, really terrific book. And Alexandre Tefengi, really, really terrific. And Lee Lowridge, who's awesome too, and a friend. all about, it's like a noir that takes place in the 30s. And Layla Starr, #2 is out right now, by Ram V and Felipe Andrade. It's so good. Does totally different things with story structure. We'll talk about it another time. I love that book. Nuclear Family, Stephanie Phillips, Tony Chastain, really, really good stuff. If you love like 50s paranoia and, you know, Fallout and all kinds of like nuclear tales, and yeah, that's about it right at. So I hope you guys liked it. I appreciate everybody at the store letting me do this. I don't know if this is too long for a video or whatever. Give me feedback. Let me know if this is stupid and you don't want me to do it. I won't do it. If it's helpful and you like it, we'll do something else next week that's like narration, maybe characterization, story arcs, emotional conflict, you know, all that kind of stuff. So again, for me, the goal is to be like, there are hundreds and hundreds of tools to writing, and each one of those is a decision you make, and the better you learn them, the more you feel like in control of how you're expressing yourself, how you can break all the rules that I'm telling you, as long as you understand them too, and be like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to use a cold open because XYZ, or you know what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip the whole structure of the thing and tell it backwards. And one of the things I love is trying out those things, failing, falling on my face, different issues and that stuff, but knowing them is fun. It's like, you know, it doesn't take away any of the wonder, for me at least, when I watch a movie, read a book, and start to understand the clockwork. It only makes it more mesmerizing, only makes it more inspiring. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks again.